Hi, Stefi, how are you?
Hey Asad, I'm good. How are you?
I'm perfectly fine. So, how's your weekend going on?
It's been pretty good. Kind of a bit winter here, but
Nice,
still good.
nice. So, any plans for the weekend or anything like that?
Just chill as much as possible before tomorrow we hit back work.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. So, Stefi, before we dive into the conversation, I would love to hear about your brief introduction for the audience and your journey from like very start when you stepped into the industry and currently what you're doing. Over to you.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Stefka Peykova, but everyone just calls me Stefi because Stefka is grammatically weird in my language.
Cool.
Um, I am currently a principal product designer in New South Wales Health Gov, which is the Australian state's health government, New South Wales state in Australia.
Nice.
But I would say my journey in design started roughly from when I was in high school. I started being super interested in typography and in graphic design and photography. So I did all sorts of design, including semi-fashion design of doing painting on silk and stuff like that.
Nice.
And eventually I was really drawn to animations and just, I loved experimenting. I think I could not picture myself just doing the same thing again and again and again.
Mm-hmm.
So when I had to choose uni, I wanted to choose a very broad program.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually I ended up studying bachelor's in digital arts in London, in UK.
Nice. Nice. Wow. So, since you like studied the design part, right? And you've been to animations, probably graphic design, and like many other art forms as well. So, when did you choose that product design is something that you want to do and you want to like continue doing it?
I would say product design chose me rather than me choosing it
Nice.
because in in uni we did everything from video production to web authoring, UX. At the time we didn't really call it
Mhm.
UX or UI like the way it's called now. But we used to do all of that, and I remember coding, and I absolutely hated doing code at the back,
Yeah.
but I love doing the designs and doing the research. Um, so I initially went into branding because I thought that's fun, and eventually I was wondering whether to do more of international branding specialization, but I was a little bit torn because I felt sometimes that with branding you're trying to sell something to someone that doesn't need it, and
Mm-hmm.
it started having this internal conflict of is what I'm actually doing reflective of what I actually want to leave behind.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I moved to Canada, and there is the first time I actually figured and came across like the term UX being actively used.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I first started working and doing projects in the UX space.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, I kind of course in digital behavior change
Mm-hmm.
to just help me understand better about the psychology, about the behaviors, the drivers that people have to kind of help me dive deeper in the UX space.
Mm-hmm.
So when we moved to Australia, I was looking for UX job, and I was looking for UX researcher job because I wanted to kind of shift away from the heavily visual design
Mm-hmm.
and improve my skills and grow my skills in that research space.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I kept on just going to different interviews or applying for different jobs. And then there was this recruiter, and she asked me, so why don't you apply for a product design job? And I was like, well, I don't want to design physical products. I've done it in the past, but I don't want to do it again. And she's like, no, product design is like, you do, if you do UX and you do UI
Yeah.
and you do the end to end and you are good at doing research and the visual and so
Yeah.
on and the strategy, you can apply for that. And I was like, yeah, whatever. I just need a job.
Yeah.
So
That would
I
make
don't
sense.
care about the title.
Yeah.
If it gets me a job in the space that I want, then I'm happy. And the first job that I actually got in Australia was as a product designer in a LMS language system.
Nice.
So after that, the ball just kept on rolling in the product design field.
That's cool. I mean, wow. So England, Canada, and now Australia, right? So which one do you like the most? If I consider you as an artist because you transformed yourself from an artist to a designer, and some people saw it in the same spectrum. Some of them saw it in the different spectrums. So which one would you prefer, being a designer in England, in Canada, or in Australia?
Oh, and I'm Bulgarian
Yeah,
born.
yeah,
So, look, I think that we always feel that the grass is greener on the other side,
yeah.
and no place or environment will ever be perfect.
Hmm.
And I love this saying that the mind is an amazing thing. It can make hell out of heaven and heaven out of hell.
True.
So it's kind of up to you. Wherever you go, your experience, there will be a part of your experience that are out of your control, but how you interpret them and how you let them change you is what's in your control, and it's what will create that experience of you being a designer in certain environment. I can't choose. I feel like every place has its positives and it has its not so positive sides, but every place ultimately gives you something that shapes you in what you are and how you think. So,
That's a great answer. So, yeah, that's great, honestly. So, again, you started your like first job as a product designer in Australia, right? And currently, you are now. It's been how much time did you spend in Australia currently? Like,
so we moved in Australia 2019, the beginning of it. So now it's 25, it will be 6.5,
yeah,
closing to the almost
yeah,
closing the 7th year soon
yeah,
in
yeah.
half a year.
Yeah, yeah. So it's been like 7 years in Australia, and if I count post COVID, because that's when everything's changed, um, probably like 2 to 3 years, right? So currently, how is the designers market in Australia like after post COVID? Um, what do you see any change, or is there something that like we should know, or anybody who is coming to Australia as a designer would know? What are the markets for the designer?
I mean, I would be right after COVID,
Hmm.
but from my observations, because we moved here 2019, so that was right 1 year before COVID hit. Um, the UX space and the product design space, they were looking like designers like crazy.
Yeah,
Literally, even when COVID hit, everyone is like, oh my God, I need a designer. Let me hire a designer. I need more designers. So there was this point that you get like randomly messaged about jobs, and there were like so many open positions. And then after COVID, it was still kind of a really good market. But the past two couple of years, as a reflection of how it's been going everywhere across the globe, things have been kind of rough here as well, especially not just for junior designers, I think for designers overall, because probably a lot of the companies, they may have overhired during COVID. They misjudge certain things or miscalculate certain expectations, and now everyone's trying to cut costs. And unfortunately, companies, when they cut costs rather than cutting costs where actually the root cause is, they
yeah,
try to cut costs by eliminating people, uh, because that's the easy way out, not
yeah,
necessarily the most cost effective way.
yeah.
But I think the past couple of years, I know that it's been hard. Um, and I hope that this year is improving. It looks like it's starting to pick up. I wouldn't say it's at the same level that it was 4 years ago, but eventually it will have to bounce back.
So that's a great insight that companies actually, some of them, for the cost cutting purpose, they fire a few employees because that's the easy way out. And if I see, I assume you will be also seeing this trend of hiring and firing, friends. So company will be like hiring, but after a few weeks you will be hearing a news from probably any source that they are firing probably 150 people or even more than that, and there will be mass layoffs, and there will be like chaos. Like they will be hiring few weeks before um, any certain date, and then after a few weeks they will be like giving a mass layoff with a lot of list of their former employees. So how do you see it? Like being a professional, how do you see it?
Well, unfortunately, I think that's how it's been happening in the past as well. My understanding is that it comes and goes in waves,
Mm-hmm.
not just for designers, but like entire economy when there is change happening. That doesn't mean it's the right thing, um, because I think if something has become a norm and we know that in X amount and X amount of years it will re-happen again, that's not an excuse for kind of like lack of responsibility, lack of accountability, and the biggest one is lack of humanity and that empathy when things are happening. Um, but I think it's a systemic issue that by me sitting and talking about it, we cannot solve it. It
Yeah.
is what it is. The only way we can possibly solve it if at a bigger scale there is a systemic shift in how we conduct business
Mm-hmm.
and how businesses are accountable towards their hiring processes and their cost cutting processes and their internal processes. And that's way bigger than just also my opinion.
True. True. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I completely understand, and I really like that perspectives as well. So, speaking of hiring and firing, or maybe the professionals looking out for the opportunities out there, I assume you will be like you must be in that phase as well, where you'll be hunting down all these opportunities, where you have to be like mm, doing a full time job as a designer, right? And I assume there are a lot of people who are currently in the same shoes. So, do you have any like tips or any roadmap or any piece of advice for the do's and don'ts in the uh, product portfolios of the designers?
Oh, this is always a tricky one because when we start reading as designers out there about what's wrong with our portfolios, how we need to structure our portfolios and make them this amazing thing, there's just so many advices out there all the time, and they're repeating itself. Like it's continuously the same.
Yeah.
Show how you think, show the research bit, and show the UI bit, and show that you can do a bit of everything, and it
Mm-hmm.
needs to look good, and it needs to sound this and that. And I mean, there's nothing more I can add to that. It's we are absolutely over flooded of this kind of information to the point that you look at it and you're like, holy moly! It's
Yeah.
like I feel like overwhelmed with all these advices. But when I think about it, is your portfolio gets you to the point to have the interview, and that's the mix of your portfolio and your CV. And your CV, if it's read by like HR or people who don't specialize in design, they just want to hear what the job has already there. So I always like recommend those matching tools
Yeah.
that you can upload your CV, upload the job post, and it gives you like what percent match you have of the keywords. I feel like that kind of helps, especially when you don't have a designer like looking over it or a design manager looking over it. The other bit is like making sure that you adjust your CV, your resume, to match what they're looking for. Um, but ultimately, I feel like, let's imagine you've already passed that portfolio and that CV things because there's so much advice on it there. My belief is ultimately it needs to reflect you. Like if you as a designer and as a human think of, okay, what differentiates me? Because we have everything is like cookie cutting. So what is different about me? Is there any belief that I hold? Is there any story that I have that it's uniquely mine and it gives me that differentiating factor? And how can I do that and bring some soul to my portfolio. So I would think it's like, think of what your designer soul is and how do you make people see a tiny glimpse of that soul in your portfolio. Because later, it ultimately, even if you have the most amazing portfolio in the entire universe and everyone calls you for interviews, ultimately it's like when you're gonna have that interview with other human. And while there are things that are in your control there's also things that are outside of your control. Whether you click with the other person, it's a lot of the time the hiring process can be very biased in its way, because no matter how unbiased humans want to be, when they hire someone, they kind of are deep down subconsciously or consciously biased towards like who they click with, who they like, whether
Yeah.
they had like this kind of vibe, whether you're what they look for. Maybe they're looking for someone who is like super obedient and just gonna get the job done,
Yeah.
and they don't want confrontation. Maybe they're looking for someone who is like running and they're okay with having a confrontational person. But ultimately, even if you decide to change who you are for the sake of the interview, I always feel like, but would you like to be the person that you pretend to be during that interview? And would later, if you get the job, be conductive for your growth and psychological safety and emotional health? Because few of the things that are the easiest to damage is our, like the easiest to damage is like burnout on a psychological level, and is the hardest one to recover from. um, I know it's not a black and white answer
Yeah.
and it's not a recipe, but some of the things probably, I don't know, I feel like some of the things are meant for us, and some of the things probably there is a good reason that we don't get them or they don't happen.
Makes sense. Makes sense completely. So, I mean, if I talk more about helping out in the community, right? So, what do you see currently about creatives helping other creatives and making the impact thing? So, honestly, if I might ask, like, how do you manage your job, your relationships, your community building or contribution, which is the mentorship program that you already have on the ADP, plus helping out all those designers? So, first thing, how do you manage? And second, um, what pictures that have do you in your mind, or what are the reflections, or how do you see this whole thing, like helping out other creatives and bringing the impact directly or indirectly by yourself?
Mm. So I think maybe first, if I had to define helping or mentoring people, I think sometimes it's not always, yes, you do invest energy, but sometimes people just need to be listened to and acknowledged that they're actually going through something and they're not alone in what they're going through. There's like some sort of validation. Hey, you're not the single case that's
Yeah.
not having difficulty. There's like an entire bunch of people across the world that are having the same challenges as you. But I think with prioritizing, I still need to be much better in prioritizing than I am actually, because I'm one of the people that you see, like, you want to do a lot of things all at once,
Yeah.
just because you just, that's how my brain works. I'm like,
Yeah.
constantly have like ideas and I want to do everything and I want to participate in everything.
Yeah.
So I guess it's first realizing that you can't do everything all at once without hurting certain sections
True.
in your life. Then I feel it's like, so if I have to prioritize, family will come first, and then my following my passions will come, I would say, second. Obviously, full-time jobs, it has like the working hours,
Hmm.
so you can do it within that time. But outside of it, I think that's how I prioritize. And with the mentoring, I've this year have reduced some of my hours because I felt that I needed the space to also um, I went through a little bit of a burnout last year, so I needed a space to recover from that and prioritize some of um, personal well-being as well. But also, I was trying to figure out how can I make like my personal passion project into something that can help the wider community. So right now, I've been predominantly focusing on trying to figure out how to start and run something my own and
Oh,
see
that's
what
awesome.
turns out to be.
No, that's completely awesome to actually think of something of your own. Ultimately, that actually gives us way more motivation, discipline, or a reason to live. Actually, because um, we actually do jobs, but there is one element that it's not ours, and that is one of the reasons why we are holding back, or our opinions, probably in the design decisions or anywhere. It could be anywhere, but our opinions got hold a little back because of the reason, because that's not our thing. And even after like trying so hard, um, and then there is when the firing factors come in, with the jobs, with the market, with the layoffs. So I mean, having our own thing is something that everyone should focus on. And yeah, that's a great advice, and I really wish you best of luck for your own matches that you are
Thank
currently
you.
cooking inside your head, or what it's going to be.
Thank you. Well, I see. I don't think it's actually something that my thinking is probably a little different. It's like I feel like everyone's, if they want to have their own thing, they should, but it's not a must. I feel like the current product design and tech world has made us feel like we constantly have to fail fast and learn fast and deliver fast and compete fast and then launch our thing fast and do fast. Like everything is like so fast, and
Yeah,
that creates this kind of anxiety. So someone goes online and it's like, oh my god, so many things are happening and others are doing so many things and I'm still stuck on that thing. It's I think that that creates a lot of internal pressure, anxiety, and unhappiness in designers because we create like picture in our head of what we need to match, but that doesn't always match the reality, and we forget to be empathetic to our own selves.
yeah,
So I would say it's it's probably also a state of mind, state of time that you're in your life, and whether you really want to do it. Because you try to, when we force things, it puts us in a bit of a, at least for me, it puts me in very not very comfortable spot. And so I like to go with like my initial internal drive. And I would say like regardless whether it's our own thing or someone else's thing, as designers we shouldn't be afraid to speak up and
mm,
advocate for what's right. I'm not very good at like hiding my opinions
no
or
worries.
just being quiet when I feel something is innately wrong or it's not going to work. So
That's
I'm
fine.
like constantly going to voice it out. And I feel like our education haven't really taught us how to be, how to do that or how to lose the fear of doing that, because it is ultimately a fear. It's like when you're trying to start something your own. I first wrote this post about the thing I want to build called Design Waves Lab. And I had this massive anxiety because it is very scary too.
Yeah,
So um, I think over time we just like sometimes we let scary things and fear when we truly want something, and I think that's when we need to just ignore that fear or do it despite of it. But I wouldn't like to put the pressure on everyone to say you got to do this or you got to do that, because
yeah,
we are all different and everyone finds fulfillment in different things. So as long as you find fulfillment and you're happy where you are, then
yeah. That makes sense. Um, very deep. Um, so so it's like it's
yeah,
like
sorry about that.
no worries, no worries. We're all good. So yeah. So yes, speaking of everything is going on pace. Um, in the current era, we see new releases every day, things being built fast, shipped fast, right? So it's very hard to actually keep up with the trends or industry trends. So again, my question will be, it will be more of like, how do you keep up with this as a designer?
I think the one trend that you constantly need to keep up with, and it should, and that never changes, but it can evolve, is making sure whatever you do is accessible and inclusive. So I don't really care. Are you using like double shadow boxes, these color outlines? Is it like this monochromatic or
Yeah,
whatever design it is? Um, I think sometimes we need to get back to basic. Trends will change,
yeah,
like visual trends will change. But if we keep our core principles, designing for the edge cases, designing for people with accessibility needs, designing experiences that are inclusive and transparent and help people make informed decisions, I
yeah.
feel like this is not a trend that changes. These are just principles that are universal and have always been and will be in those rules. And they can just keep on evolving.
Makes sense. Great answer. So before we wrap, Steph, um, like a piece of advice for the designers or probably artists who are actually looking out for work, um, who are, some are young professionals, some are actually experienced people that got laid off, or maybe they just left their current job because of the any reason. So I would love to hear a piece of advice from you to the professionals who are looking for the job. It could be anywhere, but keeping the current industry situation in mind. So what do you have for them?
Okay, so if I need to give an advice, or if you're trying to move into the design field and you're switching into design field out, my first advice is sit by yourself and try to answer why exactly do you want to move into the design field, and then ask yourself the why question a few more times afterwards, because sometimes design is sold as this easy profession, this easy job that gets you x amount of pay, gets you x amount of benefits, but it also can come with a lot of difficulties and a lot of responsibilities. And effectively, we are creating services, experiences, environments of how people interact with the world, whether that's the digital world, the physical experience, and so on and so on. So there is a big level of responsibility when you're in that role. So I would say the first one is know exactly why you want to be a designer. Uh, and then if you have more experience, um, and you're already a designer, you already know that this is your thing. Keep on persevering and be true to yourself. To believe like when we grow as humans and when we nurture and expand our own skill set continuously, effectively the opportunities that are meant for us find us. Um, so the one thing that's in our control and that we can actively work on is expanding our skill sets and our ways of thinking.
That's a great advice. Very impressive. So that's it from my side as well. Steph, do you have anything else to add?
No, thank you so much for inviting me as that. It was really a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, thank you so much for showing up, Steph. And honestly, this conversation was very invaluable and it was very deep, which at least is a new thing within the design conversation that I had previously. So, I mean, I really loved the conversation. Thank you so much, Steph. And I wish you all the best for your Monday. Uh, and then,
Thank you.
yeah, yeah, right. Thank you so much, Steph. All right, bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.